More than 4 decades of war. Tens of thousands dead.
We need peace. Enough people have died. This war must finally end. If the terror stops, everything will be better.
But now the banned Kurdistan Workers Party, or PKK, has announced it will end its armed struggle against the Turkish state and begun laying down its weapons. Does this new peace process really have a chance? An old cassette tape. That's all Ayşe Tutmaz has to remember her older brother Seyfettin. It's a recording of him singing a Kurdish folk song. For Ayşe, it brings back painful memories. Seyfettin joined the PKK, a designated terrorist group, in 1993 and died fighting for them, as did Ayşe's nephew Sipan.
My brother, my nephew, and all the others, they are still in our minds and hearts. We will never forget them. My nephew joined the PKK in 2021. He had a hard time here in Diyarbakir, was constantly pressured, imprisoned, and beaten. That's why he joined the group. Earlier this year, we learned that he'd been killed. But we don't have a body or grave.
Ayşe lives in Diyarbakir, a predominantly Kurdish city in southeastern Turkey. Kurds are the country's largest minority and also live across neighboring Syria, Iraq, and Iran. But how did the conflict begin? The PKK took up arms against Turkey in 1984 in response to political repression of the Kurdish population. What began as a fight for an independent state turned into demands for greater Kurdish rights and regional autonomy. The PKK's attacks on military and civilian targets were met with often brutal counter-operations by Turkish forces. More than 40,000 people have been killed in the conflict, and the PKK is classified as a terrorist organization by Ankara and many Western countries. At this cemetery in Istanbul, the graves of hundreds of Turkish soldiers who died fighting the PKK. Their families are also grieving. Aysel Gürel lost her 21-year-old son Halil.
He said, "I'll serve my country and my nation. I'll fight like a lion and return as a lion." In 2017, he was killed in an attack near the Iraqi border. Terrorists had infiltrated and fired a rocket at the place where my son was stationed.
But in May 2025, the PKK announced that it will end its armed struggle and disband, following a call by its imprisoned leader, Abdullah Öcalan. Öcalan has since been allowed to speak to his supporters directly by video for the first time in over 25 years.
I believe in the power of politics and social peace, not weapons. And I urge you to put this principle into practice.
Since then, the first PKK fighters have handed over their weapons and symbolically burned them. It's the first concrete step in this fragile peace process with the Turkish government. President Erdogan, who has been at the helm of Turkish politics for more than 22 years, has promised a new era for his country.
With God's will, everything will be very different after the wall of terror is torn down. We will prevent further pain and tears. As I've always said, everyone would win from this. Turks, Kurds, Arabs, all of Turkey.
But what does the Turkish president hope to gain? Ending the decades-long conflict with the PKK, observers say, would be a major political victory for Erdogan, who might use the process to prolong his grip on power.
Erdogan would go down in history as the leader who ended one of the longest-running armed conflicts in the Middle East. If society witnesses the disarmament and recognises that the state is granting certain rights to the Kurds that do not harm the Turks, it is very likely that Erdogan's reputation will improve.
And what do Kurdish people think? An estimated 20% of Turkey's 85 million citizens are Kurds, with a distinct language and culture, and Diyarbakir is often called their unofficial capital. Many here tell us they long for peace, but distrust of the government is widespread.
We've experienced many peace initiatives. I hope this one won't be sabotaged like the others. We want peace, but we no longer trust it.
We, the people of this region, are hopeful about the new peace process. I think it has to happen.
The government needs to come and explain to us what exactly they plan to do. Unfortunately, they're doing everything on their own without asking for anyone's input.
People here still remember how past attempts to end the conflict failed, most recently in 2015. Fresh fighting between Kurdish militants and Turkish forces erupted across towns in southeastern Turkey, including in Diyarbakir. Galip Ensarioglu promises that this time everything will be different. He is an MP for President Erdogan's ruling AKP for Diyarbakir and a Kurd himself.
This is not just about laying down arms or being disbanded. It's about so much more. It involves restoring the Kurdish-Turkish alliance in this region, which has been damaged throughout the Republic's century-long history of pain and hardship.
But so far, the government hasn't made any promises about what the PKK will get in return for its disarmament, at least not publicly.
Many Turks and Kurds are equally concerned. Why did all this happen so quickly? What will be offered in return? The main reason for these concerns is that we are not experiencing a democratic peace process, but an authoritarian one.
Many people in Diyarbakir are hoping for political concessions from Ankara, greater language and cultural rights, more Kurdish lessons in school, for example. And they want an end to mass arrests of Kurdish politicians and activists. In the last decade, Turkey has detained thousands over alleged ties to PKK terror and ousted dozens of elected pro-Kurdish party mayors. Gülistan Sönük is one of them. In March 2024, she won the mayor's seat in the mainly Kurdish town of Batman. But 7 months later, she was dismissed and replaced with a government-appointed trustee.
Until now, the PKK was used as an excuse to remove us from office. But this pretext no longer exists. Many of our colleagues are still in prison. If these policies continue, peace talks won't be convincing. Peace isn't just made between political parties, it's between people. If we can't make peace a social reality, it won't be sustainable.
And what about the relatives of those killed? What are their wishes? Ayşe Tutmaz too hopes for more Kurdish rights.
If there's no education in our mother tongue, if they don't release Kurdish prisoners, then I don't think that's real peace.
Aysel Gürel in Istanbul also has her doubts, because she does not trust the PKK's commitment to peace.
I hope the PKK doesn't betray us. If they promise peace and do the opposite, and more soldiers die, then it's worthless. But if a Turkey without terrorism is possible, if no more children die, then I will support my country however I can.
Ayşe Tutmaz doesn't know what the future holds. Lasting peace, she says, requires more than silencing the guns. She wants a grave for her brother and her nephew, a place where she can mourn. Does she believe in reconciliation?
Kurds and Turks, both sides have suffered. Despite the pain for my brother and everyone else, we need peace. Enough people have died. This war must finally end.
Savaş bitsin artık.